Welcome to the deep dive. You guys have given us just a fascinating, really a fascinating world here with this Las Aventuras del Rey y el Virrey Cagón.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a series that you've provided a text file for that goes into detail about, its action and adventure and comedy.
Yeah.
This series was initially headed up by DJ Strasburger and then later Douchebag Uncle in 2021.
Wow, those are some names.
Yeah, real colorful characters behind the scenes as well.
Yeah.
And this series just throws us right into the chaotic lives of, two really unforgettable characters, the Rey and the Virrey Cagón.
Oh, yeah.
And they cause mayhem, across Los Santos and Blaine County. And what began is like really straightforward, destructive fun.
Right.
Has clearly morphed into something much more layered.
Yeah.
Even venturing into like cosmic horror, like territory.
Yeah, it's really, really fascinating how that evolution has taken place. So our mission in this deep dive, I think, is to really try to chart that evolution as best we can. And we're going to be looking specifically at the temporadas.txt file that you've provided. And I think this will give everyone listening kind of a shortcut to really understanding the highlights and how the series has changed over time. So why don't we just get started?
Yeah.
With season 1, which really kind of lays the groundwork.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this. So season one seems to really want to establish this like core dynamic, right? This chaotic and often humorous destruction,
Yeah.
Like really familiar locations. Like they spend a lot of time at Fort Zancudo,
right?
That military base,
which they just can't seem to stay away from.
They can't stay away from it, and they love the Bolingbroke Penitentiary as well.
Yeah.
So
exactly. I mean, the series really kicks off during the holiday season of 2016. The Christmas special, which was released on December 26th, marks the first meeting of the Rey and the Virrey Cagón. We see them. It starts with a botched police escape, which I think, kind of sets the tone for their less than perfect criminal endeavors. And then things take kind of a spooky turn with an encounter at Mount Gordo with the ghost of Jolene Evans.
Oh, wow.
Who's kind of a local legend in those parts.
Interesting. What strikes me is how quickly the show blends tones. Like 1 minute they're in a high-speed chase and the next they're dealing with the supernatural.
Yeah.
And even after this ghost encounter, they're having like a snowball fight after a gunfight.
Right.
It really captures that like unpredictable nature of the whole series, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's that juxtaposition of the serious and the absurd that really, I think, was central to their early appeal.
Yeah.
And so the Christmas special continues. We see some more antics on the coast, another shootout involving a helicopter, and then they get their first taste of invading Fort Zancudo. And we see the Rey actually stealing a tank set to music. So it's pure, like, comedic action.
Yeah, that musical cue really emphasizes that they're going for this lightheartedness despite the chaos.
Yeah.
Then just a couple of days later, on December 28th and 29th,
right,
the snow disappears.
The snow's gone.
And that is the total la nieve se esfumó mark.
Ah, yes.
And what do they do with this newly clear skies? Head straight to the Los Santos airport.
Of course.
For some good old-fashioned aircraft theft and destruction.
Yeah. This arc really shows their penchant for just escalating the situation as much as they can.
Yeah.
It's not enough to steal a car. They've got to involve massive aircraft.
Yeah.
And we see the Rey parking a colossal plane in this just unbelievable way, and then ultimately destroying it with a helicopter crash.
Yeah.
I think it was all about maximum like visual and comedic impact.
The absurdity continues with the New Year special. So more citywide mayhem leads them, you guessed it, back to Fort Zancudo.
Back to Fort Zancudo.
This time the Virrey gets in on the tank action. And apparently the Rey meets his end in two particularly ridiculous and hilarious ways in this special.
I love it.
That self-aware humor, it seems like a key ingredient.
It does. It suggests that the creators, they weren't afraid to kind of poke fun at their own over-the-top scenarios. And as 2017 begins, Las Primeras Aventuras del Año, which translates to the first adventures of the year, on January 3rd,
Oh, wow.
sees them back in the vicinity of Fort Zancudo for a gas station shootout and a highway chase. I mean, It's like they have this magnetic attraction to that base.
They do. Then January 4th, El Tiroteo en El Muelle, which means the shootout on the pier. This takes us to Paleto Bay.
Okay.
A police chase ends at the docks. More gunfights erupt. The Rey gets hit by a fire truck. Ouch.
Oh.
And true to form, the beret just decides to commandeer the fire truck.
Right.
It's just this constant cycle of escalating madness.
One outrageous event, just triggers another, often even more outrageous than the last. And then, so January 7th brings us El Enfrentamiento por el Hydra. And for those unfamiliar, the Hydra is this really powerful military aircraft. And this episode sees them actually fighting over it, with the conflict concluding, I think, in a shootout in a Los Santos alley.
And on this same day, we have La Caída de los Reyes and A La Venganza, and then El Escape Imperfecto.
So, a busy day.
A busy day for our dynamic duo. The first one involves a high-speed motorcycle escape after they're taken down, followed by their explosive revenge.
Okay.
And then the second one is a failed sniper attempt and another motorcycle escape in the mountains that ends with them unexpectedly being captured.
Oh, wow.
I think they're persistent, if not always successful.
Yeah, their resilience is definitely a defining trait. I mean, they face these constant setbacks, but they always bounce back, ready for more. And so this kind of culminates in La Massacre de Sandy Shores on January 8th.
Okay, that sounds intense.
Yeah, so another police shootout this time at the Sandy Shores airport. And the Ray even has a bit of, a John Rambo moment where he hides out in a cabin and their escape route by plane, which they then use to actually infiltrate the Bolingbroke Penitentiary.
No way.
So talk about, upping the ante.
Wow.
And so this leads directly into the El Ataque a la Prisión arc, which spans January 9th to 14th. And this is like a sustained assault on the penitentiary.
It's not just a single attempt, though, right? We're talking multiple tries to get inside.
Yeah.
The Ray even manages to like dominate from a watchtower for a while, only to be double-crossed by the Beret.
Right.
So a little bit of unexpected internal conflict there. But even after that betrayal, the chaos from the watchtower just continues.
Right. And that betrayal, it just introduces this element of dramatic tension beyond the usual mayhem. And so the arc continues. We see the Ray actually pulling off this daring motorcycle jump into the prison, a classic action movie stunt. Intense fighting ensues at the entrance, and they conclude their prison break with a truly spectacular and destructive farewell involving a tank that is somehow attached to a transport helicopter. Season 1, I think, clearly establishes their, signature style, this over-the-top action with a healthy dose of dark humor.
Totally, yeah. So as we kind of look back now at season 1, I mean, what really stands out to you as like the foundation of the series?
For me, it's got to be the relentless escalation, and the unpredictable mix of serious action and just outright absurdity. They establish themselves as these forces of chaotic fun, and they have this complete disregard for consequences.
Totally.
It's just fun to watch.
Okay. Now let's move on to season 2. The overview suggests more of this kind of mayhem, obviously planning more visits to their beloved Fort Zancudo.
Right.
But with a significant new element. Right. The introduction of this supernatural entity called Ray Drowned. So this is where the narrative starts to take a bit of a turn.
It does. Season 2, which starts in December of 2017, seems to kind of build upon this established formula while also hinting at this more complex narrative unfolding behind the scenes. So the season premiere on December 27th immediately throws us back into the action with shootouts in Grove Street, which is, I'm sure, a very familiar location for fans of the wider game universe. And then there's this epic bicycle chase. And then destruction at a scrapyard. It's like a statement, like, hey, we're back. Right. We're still causing trouble, in all the places,
And then we have Tiroteo Bajo El Mili on December 29th. So this is classic Ray and B-Ray traveling on the roofs of trucks, which predictably leads to a massive police shootout at the pier. Yeah. The Ray apparently puts up quite a fight in this one.
Yeah, it really reinforces this almost superhuman ability that they have to just withstand damage and inflict damage. The same day also brings us El Parque de Atracciones, which translates to the amusement park. And it's almost like a brief moment of what seems like a normal afternoon at Del Perro Pier. But quickly, as you might expect, this turns into a police fight and then an escape on jet skis.
Of course.
They can't even enjoy a sunny afternoon without things turning chaotic.
Not a chance. The La Huida Impeccable Challenge on December 30th is kind of an interesting concept.
Okay.
It's 2 attempts to evade the police, but with very specific limitations.
Okay.
So first, only shotguns allowed heading to the airport.
Wow.
which doesn't go well for the Ray.
Okay.
And then second attempt, pistols only, making their way to the train tracks, which they actually managed to pull off successfully.
Wow.
So they get on the train.
I see. So it introduces this more structured, almost game-like element, I guess, to their usual chaos, right? Like
Yeah.
the self-imposed challenge within the mayhem. Yeah.
Persecuciones de alta velocidad on the same day. This is back to the high-octane action with motorcycle and truck escapes, leading to aircraft theft in Grapeseed.
Oh, wow.
It ends with the Ray actually tricking the Beret Cagon into crashing his helicopter. So just a reminder that their partnership isn't always, smooth sailing.
And the 500-hour special on December 31st, this is a celebration of the Beret Cagon's rather impressive, I guess, criminal milestone?
500 hours.
Yeah. Marked by fireworks, drinks, and naturally a bar shootout.
Yeah, because what's a celebration in their world without a bit of violence?
Right. And the same day also gives us El Ocaso de los Forajidos, which is a spectacular police chase that ultimately ends in a humiliating defeat, but not without a promise of more conflict on the horizon.
Right.
So setting the stage for the year ahead.
Exactly. Now, January 4th, 2018 brings us Ofuscando a los Maderos. And Maderos is a slang term for the police. And this episode features a shootout in South Los Santos using a container for cover, which ends with the Ray just abandoning the Beret Cagon.
Wow.
A pretty ruthless move.
That's pretty cold.
Yeah.
It really highlights this recurring theme, I think, of their sometimes fractured and self-serving partnership.
Yeah.
El Arma Larga del Rey, on the same day, focuses on the Ray using a sniper rifle against police helicopters over Maze Bank.
Wow.
So, sounding very dramatic. A parachute jump follows, but their escape from the airport is thwarted by the Beret Cagon's incompetence. A bit of karma there, perhaps?
Could be, yeah. Then Menticatesis en la Ciudad on January 5th. This features the Ray crashing his quad bike into an explosive tank.
Right.
I'm sure this was another one of those ridiculous and hilarious deaths.
Right.
Followed by more chaotic antics across Los Santos. But then we get to January 7th and this unsettlingly titled R.E. Dr. O.W.N.D. episode.
Yeah, even the title just feels off.
Oh, yeah.
The title itself is suggestive that there's something wrong here, something beyond their usual mayhem. Yeah. And this episode does involve, dangerous motorcycle stunts and aircraft theft, but there's this growing sense that they are being watched. And so this is really the first proper introduction to the supernatural element of Ray Drowned that we hinted at in the overview. And so it's a clear shift in the kind of threats that they're facing.
Yeah, definite change in tone. Then we've got a return to more familiar chaos with Menicatesis in El Labrontillo on January 8th. So we've got a store robbery, a police escape through the countryside, and they use a cargo bob, a heavy lift helicopter, to lift a shump, which is a smaller vehicle, to the highest point in the city.
Of course they do.
Yeah, so back to the absurdly grand gestures.
Yeah.
Marmotones Librapriapos in El Cielo on the same day. This is simply them showing off their flying skills at Los Santos Airport.
Just another day.
Just another day.
It's this mix of, their kind of grounded chaos and these increasingly strange occurrences. And so La Refriga in Fort Zancudo arc from January 9th to 10th, this sees them going back to their old stomping grounds, Fort Zancudo.
Of course.
There are multiple shootouts from the towers. With police helicopters, we see the Ray stealing a tank yet again.
Oh boy.
But this time they are repeatedly defeated by military tanks.
Uh-oh.
Which culminates in the destruction of both of their stolen tanks. So I guess even they can't, always come out on top against overwhelming force.
So the 50-episode special on January 11th features an attempt to put the Ray's quad bike on a Hydra.
Oh.
Which just sounds like a recipe for disaster.
That can't go well.
Yeah. More aerial mayhem ensues. And then we have more of these strange occurrences, including the Ray actually being possessed.
Right. So this Ray Drowned entity is becoming a real presence. It seems like they're directly interacting now with the Ray.
Definitely becoming a significant plot thread. And then comes End of the Line on January 12th. It's described as the most spectacular chase in the entire series up to that point.
Wow.
So
tell me about it.
It's a series-long chase through all sorts of locations, intense gunfights. They're parachuting from Mount Chiliad which is the highest peak in the region, continuing the chase in an insurgent pickup, which is a heavily armored vehicle, escaping in a Titan, a massive cargo plane after taking down the police. And then Ray Drowned returns in this really physical way, causing their plane to fracture in midair before crashing into the sea.
Oh my God.
And the fact that the Ray survives for a full 50 minutes without dying during all this is a notable feat in itself. So season 2 definitely ends on this dramatic supernatural cliffhanger.
It does, and really marks, I think, a major turning point in the series narrative. And that early focus on relatively grounded mayhem is clearly giving way to more, fantastical and complex storylines. And so this whole introduction of Ray Drowned, it raises all these questions about the nature of the series and the kinds of threats that they're going to face going forward.
Okay, so season 1 was the chaotic beginning.
Right.
Season 2 introduces like a supernatural threat and kind of this more dramatic arc.
Right.
Now we're moving into season 3, which the overview describes as taking place in a new universe entirely.
Oh.
With a focus on heists.
Okay.
And a world-ending conspiracy. So that's quite a leap in scope.
It is. Season 3, which begins in December of 2020, is definitely a significant departure. El Latrocinio A, the Diamond Casino, which translates to the Diamond Casino heist, is their first major heist in this parallel Los Santos. And it's very much like a classic heist scenario. They infiltrate the casino via the staff lobby. They silently make their way to the vault. They steal a substantial $1.5 million, and then a getaway with a buyer waiting for them in Paleto Bay. So it really signifies this shift towards more organized criminal endeavors.
Then just a couple days later, on December 24th, 2020, so Christmas Eve, we get La Rateria del Juicio Final Parte 1, which translates to the Doomsday Heist Part 1. This involves infiltrating an IAA base. And IAA, or International Affairs Agency, is basically the game's version of the CIA.
Right.
And they're taking out Merryweather agents, which is a private military contractor, taking control of turrets, repelling attackers.
So this is much more complex.
Oh, yeah.
Than just, causing random destruction.
Way more complex.
And they even get paid a decent sum. I believe it was $650,000 for their efforts. So it suggests, maybe a more purposeful and financially motivated approach to their activities.
It does, yeah. And even the Christmas Special 2020 feels a little bit different. It still involves mayhem with a monster truck on Mount Chiliad, but there's also a bit more of a celebratory, almost traditional Christmas feel to it.
Okay.
There's snow, taking photos.
Right.
So
yeah, it's a different vibe for sure.
El Rey, Dancing All Day on December 27th is a very unusual episode.
Okay.
Due to some kind of time-space error, the Rey is able to explore this private island, Cayo Perico, freely. But he's completely unable to harm anyone or anything.
Oh, wow.
So what does he do with this newfound invincibility? He dances at the party.
Of course.
For a full 9 minutes. The Beret Cagon is completely absent from this one.
Okay.
It's this bizarre, almost meditative episode,
right,
compared to their usual high-octane adventures.
Yeah, it really highlights the series' willingness to experiment with different types of narratives, even ones that are more character focused or simply surreal. And then for New Year's Eve 2020, we have La Rapiña a Cayo Perico, which translates to the looting of Cayo Perico. And this is like a proper heist on the heavily fortified private island of the drug lord El Rubio.
So we've got submarine infiltration, sneaking into an underground vault, stealing documents, gold bars, and a significant amount of cash, $2 million to be exact, and then escaping by swimming away.
Wow.
So this is high stakes, sophisticated criminal activity.
It's a clear step up in terms of complexity and the potential consequences of failure, although they do seem to pull it off successfully.
They do.
January 4th, 2021 brings us Manumission AULP, which means release to ULP, and ULP is an IAA agent. This episode involves rescuing him from a foundry in Los Santos, and interestingly, this ULP character mentions employing Nico Bellic in the past, which is a direct connection to a previous game in this series, Grand Theft Auto the Fourth.
La Teoría del Juicio Final Parte 2 on
Yeah.
January 6th is where the stakes in this new universe really, really skyrocket. They're sent to a Russian submarine to eliminate a rogue military officer.
Yeah.
But it quickly turns into this whole betrayal by their employer, the eccentric billionaire Avon Hertz, and his rogue AI, Clifford.
Right. Who are planning to destroy the world.
Wow.
So the Beret Kagon barely manages to escape the self-destructing submarine, and they're left with this rather daunting task of saving the world.
Right. So that's a massive shift from stealing tanks.
Right.
Massive
Ships.
And so it really marks this kind of significant change in the series' narrative scope.
Yeah.
It's no longer just about causing chaos or even making money. They're now facing this global existential threat. La Rapacería Fleca on January 10th, meaning the Fleca robbery, is a bit of a nostalgic return to their very first heist. It's a much smaller, more personal job involving, a local bank.
Right.
Relatively modest payout, $120,000.
Right.
Followed by some fun at the Beret Kagon's arcade.
Okay.
So it's this nice moment of looking back, I guess, after all the world-saving antics.
Definitely a grounding moment after the high-octane narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Season 3 concludes with Aventuras de F1 on January 28th. Which translates to F1 Junctures, and this is a compilation episode of unaired and funny moments.
Oh, cool.
Including their New Year's celebration, an attack involving a transmogrifier, which is a device that can alter objects.
Right.
And notably, it features the first episode told from the Beret Kagon's point of view.
Oh, wow.
As well as a sketch with this new character, Tiogilipodcast.
Okay. So this lighthearted episode offers a bit of a breather after the kind of intense narrative developments of the season. And then the introduction of Tiogilipodcast, I think, kind of hints at maybe more character exploration and comedic elements to come. So, looking at season 3, what's the biggest takeaway, I guess, about the series direction?
I think for me, it's just the complete shift in stakes and narrative focus. Moving to this new universe really allowed them to introduce like much grander storylines with heists and even this world-ending conspiracy taking center stage. And the introduction of characters like Avon Hertz and Clifford also suggests this move towards more traditional antagonist roles, alongside the chaos they themselves create.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, after that dramatic season, we have the Halloween special from 2021, and the overview sets the scene with paranormal events and our protagonists in spooky disguises.
Oh, fun!
So these Halloween specials really seem to be like a recurring opportunity to explore these more fantastical elements.
They do. Las espeluznantes andanzas del marrano Tesla y el ente esbelto on Halloween night 2021 translates to the spooky adventures of Tesla the pig and the slender entity.
Oh, wow.
And we see the Ray and the Beret Kagon dressed in their suitably creepy attire.
Of course.
And they are investigating paranormal occurrences across San Andreas. The Beret Kagon actually witnesses invisible UFOs.
No way.
They encounter serial killers.
Oh, boy.
And then a phantom car, which seems to be like the main kind of supernatural antagonist, I guess, of this special.
Oh, wow.
And then the Ray even glitches into what's described as the underworld at the Sandy Shores airfield.
Oh, wow.
So it sounds like a truly bizarre and terrifying Halloween night.
It does. And that phantom car sounds particularly menacing.
Yeah.
Now, on November 1st, Los Investigadores Consumidores de Peyote, meaning the peyote-consuming investigators, has them investigating the Los Santos slasher, who apparently only operates in Blaine County, the more rural area.
Okay.
The Ray takes him out, and then they both experience transformations into various animals thanks to consuming peyote, which is a hallucinogenic plant that's a recurring element in the game world. And they also have another encounter with that persistent phantom car.
Right. So those peyote-induced transformations definitely add this surreal and often comedic layer, I think, to the kind of horror theme of these specials. A Esfera Celeste Verdosa y Patacoloso. On November 2nd, which translates to the green celestial sphere in Patacoloso, describes a nightmarish scenario, a green sky, and a UFO invasion on Halloween night. So the phantom car attacks yet again. The Ray actually transforms into Bigfoot via peyote, and then he is hunted by the Beret Kagon.
Wow.
And finally, the Ray seemingly manages to destroy the Phantom Deck-class Tornado, which is a classic muscle car. It seems like that ghostly menace was pretty persistent.
It was. Wrapping up the spooky season, we have Halloween special deleted scenes on November 3rd. So a collection of content that didn't make it into the final cuts of the other episodes. These Halloween specials really do offer a break from the main narrative, allowing for more experimental and outlandish horror-themed scenarios.
They serve as this fun, often unsettling diversion,
Right.
and a way to explore themes of the supernatural and horror that maybe wouldn't quite fit within the generally more action-oriented main seasons.
Right.
Let's start with season 4. What really struck me is how this season felt like a turning point. We see the Beret teaming up with Franklin Clinton, which opens up a whole new world for them.
Right. It's like they're finally going pro.
Yeah, they're working with Franklin's agency, handling all these high-profile clients, celebrities, the whole 9 yards.
A far cry from their early days.
And their introduction to this world. It all starts with Dr. Dre. Remember that whole El Contubernio storyline?
Oh, yeah, the 6-part epic.
Exactly. Dre gets his phone stolen, and they have to get it back. But of course, with these guys, it's never simple.
There were so many twists and turns in that one.
Seriously. They infiltrate the FIB, kind of a callback to Franklin's past. Then they're dealing with shady music auctions, trying to snag those physical music chips.
And then that final showdown with Johnny Guns.
Yeah, intense stuff. And there was even a little nod to The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh, yeah, with a golf club. Definitely a brutal scene.
It was wild. And this multi-part structure was really interesting. It showed that the series was moving towards these longer, more complex narratives.
Definitely. They weren't just doing random crazy stuff anymore. There was a story, a purpose.
Right, and you see that throughout season 4. Like in Los Conquistadores versus El Gili, they pull off their first assassination using a phone booth. You can't make this stuff up.
And then the revenge plot against that car thief.
Oh yeah, they don't forget a grudge.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get La Conica's excursiones with those crazy drug trips at Dr. Dre's studio. That was something else.
I'm still not sure what to make of that episode.
It was definitely trippy, and it tied into that whole storyline with Franklin and Lamar and that stolen cannabis truck that, of course, explodes.
It wouldn't be them without a good explosion.
Right. And remember what Lamar does with all that weed? It was crazy. A real marketing genius, that one.
Yeah, Lamar always has a unique way of doing things.
Okay. And to wrap up season 4, we have La Conflagración de Strawberry. This one starts simple enough. They meet some strangers, but of course it spirals into betrayal, a huge explosion at a mechanic shop, and a full-blown gang war in Strawberry.
That was a wild one.
Oh, yeah. And the craziest part, they team up with characters dressed as Mario and Luigi.
I still can't believe that actually happened.
You never know what to expect with these guys. All right, that's season 4. Are you ready for the Halloween special of 2022?
Hit me.
Brace yourself. We're talking a full-blown cosmic gourd invasion. I'm serious.
What?
The Ray goes undercover as, get this, Fulano Ferranio.
This sounds like a mouthful.
And as if that wasn't enough, the Beret gets possessed by something called the Forest Drill, and there's a phantom truck on the loose, causing all sorts of havoc.
Okay, now that's just getting weird.
Weird doesn't even begin to describe it. The special is broken up into a few key parts.
So how do they break down this cosmic gourd chaos?
Right. So first up, we have Las Pavorosas Peripecias del Fulano Ferranio y el Forastero Astral. This is where we meet the transmuters, these things that are causing all sorts of crazy stuff. The Ray's phone even gets cursed for a bit.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Oh, yeah. Technology is not safe from these transmuters. And they also have their first run-in with that phantom truck and manage to take it down.
Okay, so far so spooky.
Hold on, we're just getting started. Then we have falopa. Remember that word keeps popping up, usually when things get hallucinogenic.
Right, right.
Hmm?
What happens in this one?
Well, the Cerberus Phantom is back. That seems to be their right of choice. They find a creepy skeleton. They investigate a haunted house where the Beret has a totally terrifying experience. And the Ray, of course, pretends to be a transmuter.
Classic Ray. Never misses a chance to stir things up.
Exactly. They throw in those haunted houses, possessions, phantom vehicles. It all adds up to a seriously creepy vibe for this special.
It's like they're throwing every horror trope at the wall and seeing what sticks.
And it works. Then we get El Regreso del Terror. The Tornado Phantom returns, psychopaths are on the loose, and then hold on to your hats because we have a UFO invasion.
Whoa, they really ramped it up there.
Big time. And the Beret actually dies in this one.
For real.
For real. But he gets revived. Thanks to some peyote.
Of course, peyote.
Always got to have that peyote. The Ray also encounters a clone of his Fulano Ferranio character, and then things take a really dark turn. Ray Drowned, remember that name?
Yeah, yeah. He's been lurking in the background for a while.
Well, he finally appears, like, in the flesh, and he kills the Ray.
Wow. They actually went there.
I know, right?
Right.
That's a major shift for the series.
And it makes you wonder, what's going on with this Ray Drowned character? He seems like more than just some random bad guy.
He's definitely got a bigger role to play. And the special wraps up with a two-parter, La Víspera de Todos los Santos. It's a wild ride. An alien abduction, more attacks by transmuters and phantoms, the beret dies and goes on a rampage, the Four-Astral meets a creature like itself, they destroy a vehicle carrying some kind of addictive substance, there's a crazy scene with a killer clown, the beret gets blown up by a gourd.
Hold on, blown up by a gourd.
I'm not kidding. Then there's a final battle with the Cerberus Phantom, the Four-Astral gets abducted, the beret is freed from the possession, the Ray bites the dust thanks to the tornado, the beret has this crazy hallucination where he turns into Pedicolossal, and a post-credit scene with Ray Drowned and this character called Tiogilipodcast.
Wow, they packed a lot into that two-parter.
They really did. This whole Halloween special was something else.
Definitely went off the rails a bit there.
Okay, ready to move on to season 5.
Let's do it.
Okay, so season 5 feels like a bit of a return to their roots with more of that classic criminal activity, but with the Ray's transmuter powers adding a whole new level of chaos.
It's like they're trying to balance the familiar with the increasingly strange.
Exactly. We finally get the conclusion to that whole world-saving plot from season 3 in the La Teoría del Juicio Final Parte 3. Remember Avon, Hertz, and Clifford?
Oh, yeah, how could we forget?
They finally take care of them. And then we jump right into Contiendas de Falopa, a 3-part story all about their dealings with the Fooligans gang.
So back to the criminal underworld.
Yeah, but with a twist, of course. They retrieve an RV, steal drugs, and there are some seriously trippy hallucination sequences. I'm talking Pedicolossal UFOs, the Ray and Beret becoming like descendants of Luis El Conejo.
What?
Yeah, it's wild. It ends with these creepy voices coming from a mine entrance.
Spooky.
Then we have Sorpresa Festiva, which brings some holiday chaos. Drone attacks on the Beret, more creepy mine stuff. A nostalgic attack on Bolingbrook Penitentiary, remember that place? The first appearance of El Cabernazo, and some crazy train crossing action.
Sounds like good old-fashioned mayhem with a festive twist.
Absolutely. Then things get a little more structured with Maniobra Vestigios de Cuartilla, a 2-parter where they work for the IAA. They're investigating the Duggan family, and this is where the Ray's transmuter powers really shine.
They're not just messing around anymore.
He rescues an agent, steals Clifford, again, intercepts Mason Duggan, and there's a whole mission to the Mount Chiliad missile silo.
Sounds like those powers are getting pretty serious.
Oh, yeah. And if you want to see just how powerful the Ray has become, check out the episode La Transmutación del Rey. I'm talking immortality, creating vehicles out of thin air, teleportation.
Wow, he's practically a god at this point.
And El Cabernazo makes another appearance, though it doesn't end well for him.
He always seems to pop up at the worst times.
We also have Los Transmutados Últimos Días del Año and Los Comienzos de una Nueva Traslación, more transmuter mayhem, another appearance and demise for El Cabernazo, a creepy experience for the Ray in Nuestra Casa, and Redround shows up again. It feels like the supernatural stuff is becoming more and more intertwined with their regular chaos.
It's like it's all bleeding together now.
Exactly. Then we get Acuerdos de Pilaje, a massive 4-part story about heists for the Beret's auto shop. I'm talking a Merryweather bunker, fleek of banks, a lost MC truck, infiltrating the IAA, the Ray's powers causing chaos in the shop. He even fights his own cologne. Rescuing a client's cousin from a prison bus, stealing train engine control units, a Mario Kart-style race, the Ray turning into animals.
Hold on, he can turn into animals now.
You heard right. Then there's a heist at the Union Depository, a supposed possession by something called Gorgosia Subrepticio, and they even do a musical number to make it snow.
A musical number.
I'm not making this up. This whole arc is a crazy mix of classic GTA action and superpowers.
It sounds like they're really embracing the absurd.
Totally. Then we have Una Vida de Superiate and Las Majaderas Aventuras del Antropoide y el Virrey Sicario, which are all about jobs for Captain Darcy on the Ray's new super yacht. More animal transformations, another appearance by Ray Drowned, a visit to Mount Gordo and the Mobile Operations Center guy. They literally go beyond the game's boundaries, and the Beret ends up stuck underwater.
Stuck underwater, huh? Sounds about right.
And finally, to wrap up season 5, we have Insula Finata and El Retorno del Beret. This is where things get really interesting. The Beret gets exiled to a post-apocalyptic parallel universe.
What?
I know, right? And guess who his guide is?
Tiogilipodcast.
You got it. He makes his way to Mount Chiliad and eventually returns, just in time for a celebration of the Ray's 500th criminal hour. More transmuter craziness, and the season ends with them on a giant jet, with Tiogilipodcast revealing something important to the beret. It's a huge cliffhanger.
So parallel universes and mysterious revelations. Season 5 did not disappoint.
Not at all. Okay, ready to move on to the anniversary special?
Let's do it.
All right, so this special commemorates 10 years of the Ray and Beret's criminal activities. You could call it a trip down memory lane.
A very chaotic memory lane.
Exactly. It starts with Un diseño de grandes robos de autos, which is all about looking back, causing some classic mayhem in Los Santos, and ending at a bus terminal. They even incorporate content from an older episode, Mahaderias previas al 10º aniversario de Grand Theft Auto V.
So they're really acknowledging the history of the series.
Oh, yeah. Then we have Las Olas y el Viento, which is a nostalgic trip to a coastal city, celebrating a past adventure and the success of the previous episode. This one also includes scenes from a standalone episode called Dia del Videojugador.
It's like they're giving fans a little bonus content.
Then in Disfrutando de la Estancia, they try to relax and enjoy themselves, playing tennis, golf, darts, arm wrestling.
Let me guess. It doesn't go well.
You know these guys. The Ray's powers keep interfering, of course. Then they have an aerial battle and even a quick trip to the underworld.
Just another day in the life of the Ray and the Beret.
And finally, La Centésima Aventura celebrates their 10th anniversary in San Andreas. They reminisce about past moments, do some drinking and dancing, and revisit classic locations like Sandy Shores Airfield, Pleasure Pier, Mazebank Tower, Bolingbroke Penitentiary, Fort Zancudo, and even Mount Chiliad in Shumps, no less.
They really went all out for this anniversary.
It's a real tribute to the series and its fans.
All right, what's next?
Well, after all the anniversary celebrations, it's time for more Halloween scares with the 2023 special.
Let's get spooky.
This time, they're ghost hunters. I'm serious.
Ghost hunters. That's a new one.
I know, right? They're tasked with photographing ghosts, tracking possessed animals, and of course they encounter those familiar phantom vehicles and killers.
So they're embracing the supernatural side of the series even more.
Oh yeah, and to make things even more interesting, Escoria Putrefacta Zank is back.
Like, really?
He does the intros and outros for each episode.
So he's like the spooky narrator.
Exactly. The first episode, El Matador Mortífero y el Ayote Cabalista, Los Pidafantasmendas, sees them investigating Blaine County, taking pictures of ghosts running into the Tornado Phantom, and the Beret has some creepy encounters with his own doppelganger and someone called Payaso Mamahuevo. They even meet the ghost of Johnny Kleibitz.
Wow, bringing back characters from the past. That's a nice touch.
Then in Las Fuerzas de la Oscuridad, Zank has a spooky urban exploration experience and gets attacked by Ray Drowned. The Beret has more run-ins with his doppelganger, and Payaso Mamahuevo, the Cerberus Phantom, comes back and gets destroyed. They're stalked by a slasher, and the Ray keeps getting hit by the Tornado Phantom. It's a non-stop paranormal assault.
They really ramped up the tension in this one.
Conspiración Oculta de Ñatos en la Oscurana is another wild one. Zank encounters the Ente Esbelto in Paleto Forest. They find a possessed coyote. They attack the Phantom car and actually flip it over. They have a huge battle with the Beret's doppelganger. They do some gourd collecting, rescue Patrick McReary, and the Beret gets blown up by the Tornado Phantom.
It's amazing how they managed to blend all these different elements together.
I know, right? Then we have De Ningun Modo te Desgañets, where Zank runs into Felipe Mario and Jolene Evans. The Beret gets abducted by a UFO and explores a secret lab. They face simultaneous attacks from the Phantom car, and Payaso Mamahuevo have a quick encounter with the Mobile Operations Center guy. The Cerberus Phantom makes a comeback before getting submerged, and the Beret meets a very gruesome end.
It sounds like a real roller coaster of horror and action.
The final episode is La Danza Macabra. We get Zank's catchphrase, more encounters with the Tornado, an attack by a possessed dog, a game of cam heads, drinks at the arcade, an investigation into the mysteries of Cayo Perico, and a farewell to Johnny Klebitz's ghost.
It all ends with a Bellico S. Taylor musical segment and more Zank antics.
A fitting end to a very spooky special.
Okay, ready for season 6.
Hit me with it.
This season is where things get really crazy. We're
Yep.
talking snow, transmuters everywhere, and even superheroes.
Superheroes. Now that's something I want to see. It all starts with Está principiando a distinguirse copiosamente como Shumpidad. They go hunting for the legendary Yeti. They encounter the Happy Holidays hauler, a super-powered transmuter. El Cabernazo makes multiple appearances and deaths. And the Beret manages to get on top of the hauler.
That's a lot to unpack.
Then we have the conclusion of the Fooligans storyline in Contiendas de Fallapa, parts 4 and 5. Lebrat gets kidnapped. They infiltrate and rescue him. They refuse Friedlander's estate plan. They attack Parsons Rehab Center and have a massive gas-induced hallucination. They chase Friedlander. His plane crashes. There's a shootout. He escapes. The Beret flies to Sandy Shores. Another shootout where the Ray mysteriously disappears, and Dax finally leaves.
Sounds like a pretty intense finale to that storyline.
And then there's Mesnaderos, planned destitution, where they join an aerial militia called the Los Santos Angels to take on Merryweather. They investigate Merryweather, collect downed aircraft, get ambushed during a test flight, with Beret taking down an Avenger, attack Merryweather's grapeseed base, rescue Avi Schwartzman from Noose HQ, and finally attack the Los Santos naval base to steal cargo.
So they're trading in their usual mayhem for some structured warfare.
In a way, it's still chaos, but with a purpose.
Right.
Season 6 also sees the Beret getting into the scrapyard business in El Deschwestadero. He meets Yusuf Amir, and they pull off 5 amazing car heists. I'm talking stealing vehicles from a submarine, the Diamond Casino, a police station, the Maze Bank Arena during a race, and a cargo ship.
The return of Yusuf Amir is a nice touch.
It is. Then we have La Transmutada Balada de Rey Tony El Birilis, La Banda del Pelado. More holiday mayhem with the hauler. It supposedly gets destroyed. They encounter a nasty transmuter, join a group of criminals heading to Mount Chiliad. The Ray becomes their leader. They stop for fireworks, and then the Ray and Beret leave the group. It's a weird, explosive road trip.
Sounds like a typical holiday for these two.
Then, in Sundays Transmutadoriales and Sesiones Comunitarias, we get exactly what the title suggests. Bizarre and hilarious interactions with other criminals. They meet someone called El Presidente and witness some unbelievable things: a sleigh, a flying burger, a Godzilla-like vehicle, a meteor shower. And then, in a huge twist, the Beret transforms into Super Beret.
Wow, superhero origin story.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And in Las Super Aventuras del Super Beret y el Refuerzo Super, they really embrace their superhero roles.
So what kind of superhero stuff do they get up to?
Oh man, you name it. The Ray manifests clones, non-exanimes, an army of Tiogiliposhas, killer androids, giant whales, and armed anthropoids. They have a shootout with the police and Johnny Klebitz's ghost. They transform into beasts and get hunted. They accidentally kill a civilian, cause more transmuter chaos. The Ray loses a street fight, and he summons this weird army of chicken-eating things.
It sounds like pure insanity.
Then, Los Exanimes Andarines takes things in a darker direction, with a battle against a zombie horde alongside Tiogiliposhas. They meet Cristo Ray, and the Ray manifests some seriously creepy stuff: corpses, living statues.
It's like they're exploring the darker side of the supernatural.
Exactly. Then, in El Multicosmos de la Demencia, Tiogiliposhas reveals their connection to Rey Cagon and the need to protect San Andreas. The Beret goes on a cosmic journey through parallel universes destroyed by Polestar and Acyrdos. We see a meteor shower, a dragon invasion, a zombie invasion, a world without water, and a submerged Los Santos. He gets a warning about their own world's impending destruction.
Wow, talk about raising the stakes.
Seriously. And season 6 ends with Hora de Partida. Tiogiliposhas has a musical interlude. The Ray transforms into animals. They return to Cayo Perico to rob El Rubio, all narrated by a rat. And the Beret gets a mission from Tiogiliposhas to board a spaceship and save the world. The episode ends with the Beret back in his scrapyard room after confronting Acyrdos, with Morlacos Mahometanos playing.
What a cliffhanger. So much left unresolved.
I know, right? And then we have the Halloween special of 2024, which starts with a major twist. They've lost their powers.
No more superpowers.
Nope. Fantasmagoria de los No Exanimes opens with them working as circular food delivery drivers and vandalizing signs. The Arlequin Rat reveals they've lost their powers and Tiogiliposhas is gone. They fight zombie hordes in a musical segment and then go back to ghost hunting in Los Santos. They encounter Don Beasley's ghost, finally destroy the Cerberus Phantom for good, and it ends with them feeling like someone is watching them.
Spooky. So even without their powers, they can't escape the supernatural.
No. The final episode is Sinfonia Nocturna a la Luminosidad Lunar. The Ray hires a prostitute and gets ambushed by Payaso Mamahuevo. The Beret is harassed by the Tornado Phantom. They fight a possessed dog. The Beret pranks the Ray about his next season's outfit. The Ray runs over the Saco Assassino during the Green Sky event. The Beret as a deer, confronts the Rey in the cemetery, and the credits reveal that the Conde Oscuro is the one watching them.
Conde Oscuro, that sounds ominous.
So we've gone from simple mayhem to intricate storylines with cosmic threats, superpowers, and tons of supernatural weirdness. It's incredible how much this series has evolved.
It's amazing how they've managed to keep things fresh while still staying true to the core of the series.
And for you listening, we hope this deep dive has given you a good grasp of all the key moments and storylines. We wanted to hit all the highlights without overwhelming you.
Because sometimes less is more.
Right, you get the insights, the aha moments, without getting bogged down in the details.
Exactly.
But here's something to think about. With all this craziness, all these interconnected storylines and cosmic threats, what do you think the future holds for the Rey and the Beret?
Especially now that they've lost their powers. Will they get them back?
And what about this Conde Oscuro character? Who is he? What does he want?
So many questions.
Only time will tell what kind of chaos awaits them. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of the Rey and the Beret. Until next time.
Keep it chaotic.